Hey, stranger. I'm Keith, and I'm here to take you back to American landmarks that held generations of chants, cheers, and sometimes jeers. If you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about our stadiums. Some are still as familiar as old friends, others you won't even recognize. Let's go. Busch Stadium in Indianapolis opened in 1931 and was home to the Indianapolis Indians for over 6 decades. Built in an Art Deco style with a brick facade, the stadium once featured ivy-covered outfield walls like Wrigley Field. It even briefly served as a filming location for the movie 8 Men Out, about the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Nowadays, much of Busch Stadium still exists, but not as a stadium. It's been transformed into a unique apartment complex called Stadium Lofts. Developers preserved the grandstand and converted it into housing. You can still see the field's shape from the air, now a courtyard for residents. Just up the road, another Midwestern stood tall. The Pontiac Silverdome opened in 1975 in Michigan and quickly became one of the largest indoor stadiums in the world, with a seating capacity of over 80,000. It was the home of the Detroit Lions and even hosted Super Bowl 16 in 1982. What set it apart was its air-supported Teflon roof, which once collapsed under the weight of snow in 1985. Today, the Silverdome is entirely gone. After years of vacancy and failed redevelopment plans, it was finally demolished in 2017. The once vibrant site is now the home of a massive Amazon distribution center, replacing the roars of crowds with the hums of conveyor belts. Herndon Stadium opened in 1948 on the campus of Morris Brown College in Atlanta and served as a multi-purpose athletic venue for decades. Though relatively small, seating around 15,000, it held deep significance as a hub for historically black college sports. In 1996, it gained international attention when it was used for field hockey during the Atlanta Summer Olympics. Today, Herndon Stadium still physically stands, but it's abandoned and falling into disrepair. After Morris Brown College faced financial struggles and lost its accreditation in the early 2000s, the stadium was no longer maintained. Overgrown grass fills the field, seats are broken or missing, and the scoreboard is rusting in place. Despite its Olympic past, the venue sits quietly, its future uncertain, its past largely forgotten. Did you know that a scene from the 2006 film We Are Marshall was filmed here? Candlestick Park opened in 1960 on the wind-swept shores of San Francisco Bay. It was home to both the Giants and later the 49ers. Fans remember the cold gusts, fog rolling in by the seventh inning, and the 1989 World Series interrupted by a major earthquake. Despite its discomforts, the Stick had character and hosted countless unforgettable moments. Today, the entire site has been cleared. Candlestick Park was demolished in 2015, and the area is now part of a proposed mixed-use development, though much of it still remains empty land. Now let's visit a stadium that aimed to redefine what a stadium could be. The Houston Astrodome, dubbed the eighth wonder of the world, opened in 1965 as the first domed stadium with artificial turf. Its air-conditioned interior and futuristic design amazed visitors. It hosted the Astros, Oilers, and events ranging from rodeos to concerts. The ceiling once had to be painted because sun glare blinded outfielders. Today, the Astrodome still stands, but it's empty and unused. Efforts to redevelop it have stalled, though it remains a registered historic landmark. It quietly sits in the shadow of NRG Stadium, a massive reminder of past innovation. They say the original turf was so slick, players compared it to playing on concrete. JFK Stadium opened in 1926 as Centennial Stadium and was renamed later in honor of President Kennedy. It hosted Army-Navy games, political rallies, and Live Aid in 1985, attended by nearly 100,000 fans. But by the 1980s, it had become dangerously deteriorated, with crumbling concrete and unsafe seating. The stadium was condemned and demolished in 1992. The site is now part of the South Philadelphia Sports Complex, near Lincoln Financial Field and Citizens Bank Park. Only photos and memories remain of the place where Sinatra sang and college football once drew record-breaking crowds. The Kennedys had more than one family member who had a stadium named after him. RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., opened in 1961 and was a multi-purpose stadium that hosted the Redskins, Senators, and D.C. United Soccer. Its circular design and movable seating made it versatile but also awkward. It was famous for the bouncing stands during football games. Fans could literally feel the bleachers shake. RFK officially closed in 2019 and is scheduled for demolition. It still stands, abandoned and deteriorating, but with plans underway to clear the site. The Miami Marine Stadium was one of the most visually striking and overlooked venues in American stadium history. It first opened in 1963 as the first purpose-built stadium for powerboat racing in the U.S. It was located on Virginia Key and featured a cantilevered roof made of poured concrete, giving it a futuristic, almost floating look. With water as the field of play, it hosted boat races, concerts, and July 4th events. After Hurricane Andrew in 1992, the stadium was declared unsafe and closed. It still stands, now covered in colorful graffiti and a target for restoration efforts. Preservation groups have fought for years to reopen it, and while progress has been slow, it remains one of the few abandoned stadiums that could still return to life. The Polo Grounds, rebuilt in 1911, was one of New York's oldest sports arenas. It was home to the baseball giants, Yankees, and later the Mets, as well as the football giants. Known for its odd shape, a horseshoe with very short foul lines and a 483-foot center field, it created some of the strangest plays in baseball history. The Polo Grounds was demolished in 1964. Today the site is home to the Polo Grounds Towers, a public housing complex with a small plaque marking where home plate once sat. Aloha Stadium opened in 1975 in Honolulu and was the largest stadium in Hawaii. Known for its rust-colored panels and unique design with 4 movable sections, it could be reconfigured for baseball or football. It hosted the University of Hawaii Warriors and, for many years, the NFL Pro Bowl, becoming a showcase for island sports culture. Today, Aloha Stadium is closed and awaiting demolition. Corrosion from the island's salty air made it unsafe for large crowds. The site will eventually house a new stadium, but for now it sits idle. From island breezes, we go to Texas Stadium in Irving, which opened in 1971 and became instantly recognizable for the hole in its roof. So God could watch his team. Cowboys fans often joked. It was home to Dallas through 5 Super Bowl wins and was known for its intense crowds, artificial turf, and deep blue end zones. The stadium was closed in 2008 and demolished in 2010 by implosion. Today the site is part of a highway interchange. The Cowboys now play in AT&T Stadium in Arlington, a modern marvel with a retractable roof and massive video board. But for many, the simpler open-roof days of Roger Staubach and Tom Landry still define the team's identity. Centennial Olympic Stadium opened in 1996 as the centerpiece of the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. Built to seat over 85,000 fans, it hosted track and field events and the opening and closing ceremonies. After the games, it was partially rebuilt into Turner Field, home of the Atlanta Braves. That wasn't the end of its transformation. In 2017, Turner Field became Center Park Stadium, the football home for Georgia State University. Over its life, the structure has served 3 distinct purposes: Olympics, baseball, and now college football, a rare example of how a stadium can evolve rather than be torn down. Moving further southeast, we arrive in sunny Florida for a stadium with a unique nickname. Tampa Stadium, known by locals as the Big Sombrero, opened in 1967 and earned its nickname because of its curved, double-deck design. It hosted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, college bowl games, and concerts that packed in tens of thousands. With its open design, the heat was brutal, but the energy during games was intense. By 1999, it was gone, replaced by Raymond James Stadium, built right next door. The new stadium is more shaded and filled with modern amenities, including a full-size pirate ship. But for many longtime fans, nothing compares to the sweat-soaked, sun-bleached days of the Sombrero era. The original Yankee Stadium opened in 1923 and was nicknamed the House That Ruth Built. With its triple decks, frieze trim, and Monument Park, it was where legends like DiMaggio, Mantle, and Jeter made history. The stadium underwent several renovations over the years, but retained its aura until it closed in 2008. The site is now a public park called Heritage Field. The new Yankee Stadium stands directly across the street, built to resemble the original's exterior, but with modern luxury suites and open concourses. Still, for many fans, the real magic is in the grass and dirt that now make up community baseball fields where history once roared. Ebbets Field, opened in 1913, was home to the Brooklyn Dodgers until 1957. With its arched windows, marble rotunda, and cozy 31,000-seat layout, it was one of the most beloved parks in baseball history. Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier here in 1947, making it sacred ground for many Americans. Today, there is no trace of Ebbets Field above ground. It was demolished in 1960, and the site is now home to the Ebbets Field Apartments, a high-rise housing complex in Crown Heights. A plaque marks the location of home plate, but most passers-by wouldn't realize they're walking across where baseball history was made. Cleveland Stadium, which opened in 1931, sat right along Lake Erie. It hosted both baseball and football, home to the Indians and Browns, and could seat over 78,000 fans. Its massive size often made it feel empty, but it held generations of sports memories. The stadium was closed in 1995 and demolished shortly after. Today, First Energy Stadium, home of the Browns, sits on part of the same site. Smaller and sleeker, the new stadium offers better views and facilities, but the old one lingers in memory for its harsh winters, rusting beams, and loyal fans who stuck with it. Three Rivers Stadium opened in 1970 at the junction of the Allegheny and Monongahela Rivers. It was home to the Steelers and Pirates during some of their most successful years. It had a typical cookie-cutter design shared by many stadiums of the era, circular, all-purpose, and built for function over charm. By 2001, the stadium was demolished in a dramatic implosion. Today, the area is occupied by two separate venues, Acrisure Stadium for football and PNC Park for baseball, both offering beautiful river views and more intimate seating. One state over, another stadium with sky-high energy reached new heights, literally. Mile High Stadium in Denver began as Bears Stadium in 1948 and expanded over time. By the time the Broncos moved in during the AFL era, it had become a sea of orange and blue. Its steel bleachers were notorious for shaking when fans jumped during touchdowns, and at over 5,000 feet in elevation, it gave Denver teams a unique home field advantage. The stadium was replaced in 2001 by Empower Field at Mile High, just next door. The new facility retains the Mile High name and tries to echo the spirit of the original, even keeping the old stadium's horse statue, Bucky the Bronco, atop its scoreboard. Comiskey Park was built in 1910 on Chicago's south side and stood as the home of the White Sox for over 80 years. Known for its towering upper deck, the exploding scoreboard added in 1960, and close-knit seating, it was a gritty and loud park that echoed with the energy of generations. Fans remember it as the field that sat just 12 feet below street level. Today, Comiskey Park is gone. It was demolished in 1991 and replaced directly across the street by Guaranteed Rate Field. The new park is more modern and comfortable, but it just doesn't have the creaky charm and intimate atmosphere of the old ballpark. Legion Field opened in 1927 in Birmingham, Alabama, and for decades it was the football capital of the South. With a capacity that eventually reached over 83,000, it hosted the Iron Bowl between Alabama and Auburn for nearly 40 years. Known as the football capital of the South, it was also a site for Olympic soccer in 1996 and countless bowl games. Today, Legion Field still stands, but at a reduced scale. Much of its upper deck was removed due to structural concerns, cutting capacity nearly in half, While it's still used occasionally for high school and smaller college games, its heyday has clearly passed. Grass now grows through parts of the concrete stands, and the roar of 80,000 has faded into memory. On the other side of the country, one stadium changed the skyline and then was gone in a flash. The Kingdome in Seattle opened in 1976 and was a giant concrete dome that hosted the Mariners, Seahawks, and Supersonics. Its gray interior and echoing acoustics weren't beloved by fans, but it was the first fully enclosed multi-sport stadium built entirely of concrete. The dome was so large it needed special lighting just to make it feel less dim. The Kingdome was demolished in 2000 by controlled implosion. Now the site is home to Lumen Field and T-Mobile Park, two separate stadiums offering open-air views of Puget Sound. Heading back to the Midwest, Detroit's Tiger Stadium stood for nearly a century. It originally opened in 1912 as Navin Field, stood at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull in Detroit. With its double-decked grandstands and flagpole in fair territory, it was one of the quirkiest and most iconic ballparks in America. Over the years, it hosted legends like Ty Cobb, Al Kaline, and even served as a football venue for the Lions. The stadium was closed in 1999 and demolished a decade later. Today, the site is known as the Corner Ballpark, with a youth baseball field built exactly where the old diamond stood. Forbes Field opened in 1909 in Pittsburgh and was one of the first concrete and steel stadiums in the country. It was home to the Pirates and, for a time, the Steelers. Known for its ivy-covered walls and distant fences, 457 feet to center field, it was where Bill Mazeroski hit his famous World Series winning homer in 1960. The stadium was closed the same year and slowly dismantled. Today, the outfield wall still stands on the campus of the University of Pittsburgh, along with home plate preserved inside Pasvar Hall. The original scoreboard numbers from Mazeroski's home run game were saved and now hang in a nearby museum. Sam Boyd Stadium opened in 1971 in Whitney, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas, and became the home of the UNLV Rebels. With its horseshoe shape and desert backdrop, it also hosted the Las Vegas Bowl and professional football experiments. It was known for brutal heat and a party-like atmosphere in the stands. As of 2020, the stadium has been largely mothballed. UNLV and the Raiders now share the modern Allegiant Stadium closer to the Strip. Sam Boyd still stands, but it's mostly surrounded by dust and silence. It's still occasionally used for overflow parking during major Las Vegas events, but that's about it. Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, opened in 1956 and was home to both the Twins and Vikings. With its exposed upper decks and chilly autumn winds, it became a symbol of tough cold-weather sports. Fans braved blizzards, watched Harmon Killebrew launch home runs, and packed in for outdoor football before the Metrodome came along. The stadium closed in 1981 and was demolished in 1985. Today, its site is part of the Mall of America. Inside the mall, a plaque marks the location of home plate, and a red stadium seat hangs high on a wall, showing where Killebrew's longest home run landed, right inside the Nickelodeon Universe amusement park. If you had fun on this look back at America's greatest stadiums, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.